sample sizes for population proportions. Our objective: determine the sample size necessary for estimating a population proportion within a specified margin of error. All right, what do we know? Well, we know what margin of error is. It is 1/2 of the width of the confidence interval. In other words, the width of the confidence interval is the margin of error times 2. Okay, we're going to use StatCrunch again to do this. Let them do the math for us. And we're using StatCrunch's stat proportional stats, one sample again. This time we're going to go to width sample size to determine the sample size necessary for estimating the population proportion within a specified margin of error. 3 notes. An estimate of the sample proportion, p hat, and it's called the target proportion in StatCrunch, is required. There are 2 possible solutions to this. One, we can use an estimate of p hat based upon an earlier study, or 2, we'll let p hat be 0.5, which gives us the largest possible sample size. Okay, so those are our 2 possibilities. We'll do both of those in our example. Number 2, as above, the width of the interval is twice the margin of error. Okay, the width of the interval is the margin of error times 2. We want to keep that, we want to remember that. And number 3, in order to make sure our sample size is big enough, whatever answer we get, if it's a decimal, we always round up to the next whole number. Even if it's like 45.1, we're going to round up to 42 as necessary. Honestly, I think StatCrunch gives us as a whole number every time, but just in case you run across a problem like this, we always want to round up to the nearest whole number. Okay, this is a fairly simple concept. I've got one example with 2 parts for you when we use StatCrunch. So, a social worker wants to know the proportion of the U.S. population over age 16 who provide elder care. Elder care defined as unpaid care for someone with a condition related to aging to others. Use StatCrunch to determine what sample size this person should obtain if the social worker wants an estimate within 3 percentage points of the true proportion with 95% confidence. If 1, the social worker uses the 2015 estimate of 16% from the American Time Use Survey, and B, the social worker does not use any prior estimates. Okay, so letter A. Our margin of error, MOE, I'll abbreviate margin of error, it says within 3 percentage points. Our margin of error is 0.03. Okay, I'll note that down. I'll write this down. Within 3 percentage points. 3%, of course, is written as a decimal, 0.03. What this means is the width of the interval is twice the margin of error. So the width, which we need to input into StatCrunch, is 2 times the margin of error, which is 0.06. Okay? And in this case, 0.16 is the target proportion. We're told we're going to use an estimate of 0.16. So that is our target proportion estimate. How many people do we need? Okay, so we know that our width is 0.06, twice the margin of error, and our target proportion is a 0.16. And so how big of a sample do we need to be 95% confident? Let's go to StatCrunch. It'll do the math for us. Okay, got us in there. We'll go to Stat, and we're going to go again to Proportion Stats. And this time we're dealing with the 4th one down here, the width. We're still one sample. The width Okay, and here we have it. I think I got it all in there. Okay, you can ignore the whole picture. We're down here at the bottom. Confidence level, we want to be 95% confident, and it looks like it's already defaulting to 95%, so I don't need to change that. Our target proportion, it defaults to a half. Well, our target proportion is 0.16, okay? Our width, okay, our width is 0.06. So I'll go into here and put in, I'll put in 0.06. And now it's going to calculate the sample size, compute, and it says in order for that to happen, the social worker needs to sample 574 people. Okay, so that's our sample size right there. Let's go down to here. Okay, back to our paper. And we know the sample size is equal to 574 people. So let's kind of recap and interpret what this means. Okay, this social worker wants to be 95% confident within 3 percentage points. Okay, well, in order to meet that criteria, this person needs to sample 574 people to meet that criteria. Okay, letter B says it's going to ignore letter A's part. This person has no idea from any prior information, so we need to get a sample size that is going to cover all possibilities. Okay, and we use 0.5 right here. If I go up a little bit for you, we're going to use 0.5 as our p hat, okay, which will give us the largest possible sample size if you have no clue. Okay, so still, we have a margin of error. We still want to be plus within 3 percentage points. We know that this means our width from above here, right here, is 0.06. And now we're going to say we're going to use 0.5 because we don't have a clue. So we're going to use the 0.5 to give us the sample size that is as large as needed. Okay, so is the target proportion because we don't have any idea. So we're going to go with 0.5. Okay, of course the question is what sample size? It's going to be larger because we don't have a clue what came before it. So we're going to need a larger sample size to make sure that we're accurate enough. All right, go back into here. I've left it open for us. You can go back and open as you need to. So by confidence interval, I want to maintain a confidence interval of 95%. My target proportion is no longer 0.16. I don't know what it is, so we'll put in 0.5 to give us a very large sample size, but it'll make sure we're accurate. Our width is the same. They've changed it to 0.05998. We can go back if you want to. It should be just fine. Put in 0.06 because that is our width, and we'll press compute. And we need a sample. The social worker needs a sample size of 1,068. Okay, I just threw my camera off. Sorry about that. So we go back into here, and we say, okay, if you have no prior estimate, you've got to increase your sample size to almost double. It looks like, yep, you're getting close to double there in order to meet this criteria. Because you didn't have any other additional information, we need to increase the sample size so that we feel 95% confident that you are within 3 percentage points. So there you have it, using StatCrunch to determine sample sizes for population proportions.